Good evening, you're watching London Live News at 6 with Alicia Edwards. Coming up tonight, travel misery enters its second day as commuters face the aftermath of yesterday's action, with more on the way tomorrow. Marking Windrush Day, 2 statues have been unveiled in the capital, honouring the legacy and contributions of the Windrush generation. We'll have an update on London's weather in the next 10 minutes. Plus, the London Assembly finds more than 260,000 adult Londoners are unbanked. We'll be hearing more. And we'll be playing Conleth Kane's new single Proud for the very first time later in the show, ahead of a performance at Pride. All of that on the way, but first, commuters in the capital faced further travel misery this morning as 4 tube lines were hit with delays due to faulty trains and a signal failure, causing even more disruption amid the ongoing industrial action. The Circle, District and Hammersmith and City lines were all affected by faulty trains by early this afternoon, and the Central line was suspended between Leytonstone and White City due to a signal failure at Liverpool Street. Severe delays were affecting the rest of the lines throughout the day. This disruption was expected as signallers and control room staff were not working overnight shifts. The issue wasn't ignored in PMQs today. Sir Keir Starmer asked the Prime Minister what he was doing to stop the strikes.
If he's genuine about preventing strikes, will the Prime Minister tell this House how many meetings he or his Transport Secretary have had with rail workers this week to actually stop the strikes?
Mr. Speaker, this is the government that loves the railways, that invests in the railways. Not £96 billion we're putting into the integrated railway plan building. Not just, I'm proud to have built Crossrail, by the way, Mr. Speaker, and we're going to build Northern Powerhouse Rail. But what we've got to do is modernise our railways. And it is a disgrace when we are planning to make sure that you don't have ticket offices that sell fewer than 1 ticket every hour, Mr. Speaker, that he yesterday had 25 Labour MPs out on the picket line, defying instructions.
I want to hear the Prime Minister's answer, even if you don't. I think you ought to show some respect for the Prime Minister. Prime Minister.
Out on the 25, and the shadow deputy leader, out on the picket line, Mr. Speaker, backing the strikers, Mr. Speaker, while we back the strivers.
That from PMQs earlier on today. Well, the tube strike may have passed, but the action is far from over. Rail strikes are still going ahead tomorrow and on Saturday, with operators warning that there will be disruption on train lines until Sunday. Boris Johnson had responded with plans to break the industrial action by allowing firms to bring in agency staff, a move unions have described as unworkable, unsafe, and with some arguing it could be potentially breaking international law. Manuela Galetto, an employment relations expert, has discussed the proposals.
Well, the proposal to lift the ban on the use of agency workers to effectively break the strike shows, for me, disrespect for the workers and for the negotiators who are trying to solve the dispute via other means, via the negotiations, which is the normal route of a dispute in labour relations. So this is quite an aggressive proposal to bring into a delicate moment where we don't know where we're going next with this dispute. The first things that comes to mind is that it's a proposal that is in breach of international law. It's against a basic, universally recognized right of workers to organize and to express their discontent. So I think that even more than political opposition, there should be legal opposition to this, which is of course linked also to the political meaning of it. I think this type of legislation will have a detrimental impact on trade unions' ability to represent workers, to be an advocate for the demands of workers, which are legitimate in any workplace relations. Of course, we're seeing strikes now as particularly prominent. We're all being affected, so it looks like that they're particularly disrupting. But discontent happens, and employment relations are also made of moments of conflict, and conflict can be resolved. And possibly one could argue negotiating with one union, RMT in this case, is possibly quicker, easier, more effective than negotiating with 40,000 workers, which are the members that they represent. So to bring in this type of legislation would mean to, yes, as I said, weaken the important role that unions have, not only today, they've had it traditionally for a long time in the representation of workers and workers' instances and demand. They've been sometimes very effective in channeling that discontent as well, because we see strikes when they happen. We don't see strikes when they don't happen. And that's often thanks to mediations that occurs also between employers representatives and unions. So that weakening of the parties involved could be detrimental in the longer run as well.
There we are, on to some other stories from the day now. People are being urged to ensure their polio vaccines are up to date after an outbreak of the virus was detected in sewage samples in the capital. The UK Health Security Agency has found polio in sewage samples collected from the London Beckton sewage treatment works, which serves around 4 million people in north and east of the capital. Officials believe there have been some spread between closely linked individuals, probably extended family members, and that these people are now shedding the type 2 polio virus strain in their faeces. A consultant epidemiologist at the UK HSA has said that vaccine-derived polio virus is rare and the risk to the public overall is extremely low. An investigation has been launched following the death of an 89-year-old woman in Croydon. Police were called by the London Ambulance Service at around 9:20 last night to a woman suffering stab injuries at a residential address in Thornton Heath. She was pronounced dead at the scene. A man aged in his 30s was arrested at another address in Croydon a short time later, and he was taken into police custody. The London Fire Brigade have put out an urgent e-bike safety warning following a serious blaze at a block of flats in Shepherd's Bush yesterday, close to Grenfell Tower. 60 firefighters tackled the fire in a 12th floor flat, and one man was taken to hospital. The brigade's fire investigators have found the blaze to have been accidental and caused by the failure of an e-bike's lithium-ion battery. They're warning that batteries and chargers sourced online may not meet the correct safety standards. And marking Windrush Day, statues have been unveiled across the capital. At Waterloo, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge were in attendance, and the Queen sent a message paying tribute to the profound contribution of the Windrush pioneers, describing the new national monument at London's Waterloo Station as a fitting thank you. Well, in Hackney, artist Thomas J. Price was there to show off his new work, a major public sculpture entitled Warm Shores, which honours the legacy and contributions of the Windrush generation in the UK.
I was asked to submit a proposal. I've been making work which basically critiques statues and monuments for about 20 years. And so for me, this felt like a natural step towards trying to make something which really has a place in the United Kingdom, has a place in London, exists in Hackney, that can really be a comment about what we are used to as our statues, our monuments, to make people aware of how they function by presenting something which is in the material of power, so they're in bronze, at a scale that we recognise as monumental, but they stand on the ground that we walk on. So they're not removed from us by a plinth. They're not triumphant, they're a celebration, and they're trying to connect to people as opposed to rule over them.
There we are, artist Thomas J. Price there in Hackney. Now, ex-footballer Rio Ferdinand has visited Number 10 for the launch of an anti-bullying campaign. Don't Face It Alone aims to encourage young victims of cyberbullying to seek help and launches in the same week that the online safety bill goes through Parliament. Rio says social media companies need to take more responsibility.
Tackling bullying online, I think, is a real big a topic that's close to my heart. I think I've experienced it myself. I've seen a lot of people go through it, and I've seen the negative impact it can have on people's lives. And people will say just words, it's just sticks and stones, but it's not a nice thing to be on the receiving end of. So any positive change that we can kind of be a part of, I'm all for it. Firstly, I think passing the online bill would be a good start. Making the social media platforms accountable for a lot of the online hate and toxic behaviours. But maybe I think another platform might be the answer. And I think inspiring content and inspiring social media feeds is the way forward. Because I think a lot of the kids now, I've got kids myself, they go online and they're trying to live up to an expectation that isn't really achievable. Perfect lives, perfect pictures, perfect stories. It's not reality. So we need to change that. I think coming away from something that is now ingrained in our society, I think would be probably the wrong thing. It's like you're maybe running away from the situation rather than combating it, with the help, hopefully, of the government.
Rio Ferdinand there on that campaign. Right, let's take a quick look at the weather now. It's dropping to around 15 degrees at its lowest overnight. A dry night to come as well. Thursday will start sunny, but early in the afternoon there could be some rain moving in from the south, some thunderstorms expected. A very warm day and some bright sunny weather to look forward to on Friday with highs of 23 degrees. A couple of degrees cooler at the weekend, but it looks like the rain is hopefully going to be holding off for a bit longer. Right, it's time for a break now, but coming up, cricket fans living with dementia in Surrey and London have a special invite to day one of the county championship match at the Kia Oval. We'll have more after the break.
From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos over the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at some other stories affecting Londoners today. Prices are continuing to rise at their fastest rate for 40 years as fuel, energy and food costs continue to climb. Inflation hit 9.1% in May, climbing from 9% in April. The figure is now at the highest level since March 1982, when it also stood at 9.1%. The Bank of England has warned inflation will reach 11% this year. The average price of diesel is perilously close to £2 per litre, motorists have been warned. RAC fuel spokesman Simon Williams said wholesale costs mean pump prices are on course to move closer to the milestone. Figures from data firm Experian show the average price of a litre of diesel at UK forecourts reached a new high of 197.1 pence today. And the gates of Glastonbury Festival have officially opened for the first time since 2019, with the impacts of the strikes not dampening the spirits of festival goers today. The event's founder Michael Eavis has said it will be the best show in town, with the likes of Sir Paul McCartney, Kendrick Lamar and Billie Eilish headlining across the weekend. Well, to anyone heading down to the West Country, enjoy. I'm not jealous at all. Right, now estimates suggest that between 200,000 and 260,000 adult Londoners are unbanked, meaning they do not have access to a bank account. An investigation by the London Assembly revealed the number of Londoners who do not have the necessary documentation required by banks to open an account. Chair of the Economy Committee behind the research, Hina Bakari, is here. Hina, thank you so much for joining me. So first of all, can you just talk us through what the requirements are to open a bank account for people who aren't aware of, the detail that goes into it?
Well, you need to have a permanent base of residence. If you're homeless, for example, or you don't have a permanent base, if you're living with other people or relatives, then absolutely this is going to be a factor. As well as that, you need formal identification if you don't have a passport or a driving license. And there is the need for us now to start working with banks to find out exactly what are the reasons they are refusing to give a simple bank account to certain groups of people. What we found in our investigation is that if you are long-term unemployed, if you've never worked, if you're a migrant, I'm sure you're aware that asylum seekers cannot gain access to work when they arrive. People from the Gypsy Roma traveller community, people who have learning difficulties are also refused a bank account. And we're finding that even young people who are leaving care, leaving the local authority, becoming an adult, there's a massive issue there about them gaining a bank account. And then the thing that we found out during the pandemic, there were many women, specifically women, who were trying to escape from abusive relationships, found themselves without a bank account, arriving at TfL stations, and at that point during the pandemic they weren't allowed to use cash or coinage. Luckily we did manage to convince TfL to change that strategy, but that just highlighted the problem that there are particular groups who are very much in need of a bank account but just not getting that access.
Part of a wider issue, but how do people that need the help now get the help that they need? Is there anything there that people can do?
Well, what we want is that the Mayor of London and the Deputy Mayor of Communities and Social Strategy Justice has to make sure that we have a financial inclusion strategy. Now, with a financial inclusion strategy, we can find out a little bit more about the issues involved with those people and those groups who are not getting a bank account. How can we support those people who are not getting a bank account? How can we make sure that they can get the right identification? And by working with the banks, the Mayor of London can do a lot more for those particular groups and those particular people who are in need. There is a lack of data and evidence here, and we need to make sure that we can work with the banks better to find out more. We need to lobby the government also to find out the reasons why they're refusing certain groups a bank account. But we've also highlighted a lack of education. And there really is an issue there with our education system and financial literacy. Yes, the curriculum, the national curriculum, says that we must make sure that our children are learning about banking and financial, how to look after themselves financially. However, that's not the case if you're in a free school or an academy. There's no reason for them to follow the national curriculum. So there are gaps in our system right now. And if anything, education is the key when it comes to making sure that our young people are financially secure.
With the cost of living crisis now only getting worse, do you and the London Assembly have concerns that this number could grow?
We do think it's going to grow. I mean, with my Liberal Democrat hat on, we're calling this an emergency, actually. This is far worse than just calling it a crisis right now. But the London Assembly is very well aware of it. The Mayor of London is. There is a support hub available online for any Londoners who need any advice, any help or support. And I think we do need to flag that there is access to help there, but we do need to make sure that the government is doing more, and I'm afraid they're not. Again, with my Liberal Democrat hat on, we definitely believe that a slash in VAT is a sure far way of actually helping many of these families that are struggling right now. If there isn't immediate action from the government, then this situation is definitely going to get worse. In London right now, we have 1 in 3 children who are living in poverty. Can you imagine how that's going to be impacted even further now? We are definitely in a situation right now where I'm getting calls and messages I'm also a local councillor in Merton. And I am getting emails with copies of phone bills and energy bills and just water bills coming through quite regularly now, of people panicking, saying, I cannot pay this. I've never had this amount of money that I've had to pay for. I've had no change in my working conditions. I'm still working, but yet right now I can't afford even to go to the shops and get the food because I can't get the petrol in my car. So it's absolutely awful. It really needs to be taken on far more seriously by the government. They seem to be sitting back, not really paying attention to what people like myself are saying to them. So absolutely from terms of the London Assembly, we do think the Mayor of London can lobby, and making sure that we are using a financial strategy to help those people who are unbanked. But on the other side, there's so much more that the government can be doing.
OK, Hina, thank you very much for taking the time to chat to us today. Hina Bakari there from the London Assembly. Now to a positive initiative merging sport and health in South London. Surrey County Cricket Club has teamed up with the Alzheimer's Society to try and knock stigma around dementia for 6. Cricket fans living with dementia in Surrey and London have a special invite to day 1 of the county championship match at the Kia Oval. Surrey are working in partnership with the Alzheimer's Society to transform the way sport supports people affected by the debilitating illness. Matt Hughes-Short from the Alzheimer's Society has been telling me more.
I think, first of all, it's really important for us to say that at the Alzheimer's Society, we really think that sport should be unforgettable. But sadly, for a lot of people living with dementia, those precious memories that they've collected over a lifetime start to slip away. So we're working closely with Surrey County Cricket Club to transform the way that sport can support people affected by dementia as part of our pioneering Sport United Against Dementia campaign. So the fixture this Sunday against Kent, which starts at Sunday 26th of June, we'll see all of our cricket fans living with dementia along with their families and carers in the stands at the Oval. And the Surrey County Cricket Club have extended a special invite to those local fans affected by dementia to help to ensure that they can remain part of the game that they love.
Why cricket? Why get over and see a cricket game?
Well, I think for us, I should say that our Alzheimer's Society Sport United Against Dementia campaign covers a variety of different sports, but cricket obviously has a really rich history, a very cultural history as well. And this gesture from Surrey County Cricket Club is going to help to make sure that no one faces dementia alone. And by creating a network of dementia-friendly facilities long-term, not just for cricket, but for other sports as well, we hope that we can end some of the stigma that surrounds dementia and help people to continue enjoy sport for as long as they possibly can once they've been diagnosed.
What can a day like this, getting out there, this kind of experience do for people living with dementia and their families as well?
Well, one of the big things that we're really working on is trying to raise the understanding of the fact that social interaction is incredibly important for people affected by dementia once the condition has been diagnosed. And it's just as important that their carers can receive some support and can also have access to respite opportunities as well. So an opportunity like this is excellent because obviously it's complimentary from Surrey County Cricket Club. It raises the awareness of the condition and helps people to break down some of the stigma that's often associated with it. And it's actually just a really great opportunity to just have a free of charge, easy, relaxing day out at the cricket. We know that cricket has got such a rich history across the country, and this is a really great opportunity for people who've had that dementia diagnosis to continue to enjoy it as a sport long term as well.
You mentioned that this is something that can happen more widely in sports. Is this something that you'd like to see more clubs getting in touch about doing, collaborating with you?
Yeah, 100%. And, the statistics around dementia are particularly damning. We know that there are 900,000 people currently living with dementia in the UK. And at Alzheimer's Society, our Sport United Against Dementia campaign is really focusing on trying to improve accessibility and inclusivity for people affected by dementia across the country. We'd love to work with more clubs, and we're working towards that end. We're currently putting together some guidance that will be released later on this year that can help clubs to understand more about what they can do to help their facilities and their venues to become more dementia friendly. Our campaign is also seeking to not only increase funds and awareness of Alzheimer's Society and the support services that we run, but also to try to increase the understanding of the condition among players, former players and fans as well.
Matt there from the Alzheimer's Society on that lovely day at the cricket. You're watching London Live News with Alicia Edwards. A reminder of our top story coming up after the break. Plus, the stars shone bright under the sun in the capital as Paramount Plus launches here in the UK. We'll hear from Sylvester Stallone on his new series.
From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos over the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos over the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live.
Welcome back. A reminder of our main story in the capital this evening. Commuters have faced further travel misery today as 4 tube lines were hit with delays due to faulty trains and a signal failure, causing more disruption amid the ongoing industrial action. The Circle, District and Hammersmith and City lines were all affected by faulty trains by early afternoon, and the Central line was suspended between Leytonstone and White City due to a signal failure at Liverpool Street. There were severe delays on the rest of the line. This disruption was expected as signallers and control room staff were not working overnight shifts. Well, the issue wasn't ignored in PMQs today. Sir Keir Starmer asked the Prime Minister what he was doing to stop the strikes.
Will the Prime Minister tell this House how many meetings he or his Transport Secretary have had with rail workers this week to actually stop the strikes?
Mr. Speaker, this is the government that loves the railways, that invests in the railways. Not £96 billion we're putting into the integrated railway plan building. Not just, I'm proud to have built Crossrail, by the way, Mr. Speaker, and we're going to build Northern Powerhouse Rail. But what we've got to do is modernise our railways. And it is a disgrace when we are planning to make sure that you don't have ticket offices that sell fewer than 1 ticket every hour, Mr. Speaker, that he yesterday had 25 Labour MPs out on the picket line, defying instructions.
I want to hear the Prime Minister's answer, even if you don't. I think you ought to show some respect for the Prime Minister. Prime Minister.
Out on the 25, and the shadow Deputy Leader, out on the picket line, Mr. Speaker, backing the strikers, Mr. Speaker, while we back the strivers.
There we are, on to some other stories from the day now. People are being urged to ensure their polio vaccines are up to date after an outbreak of the virus was detected in sewage samples in the capital. The UK Health Security Agency has found polio in sewage samples collected from the London Beckton sewage treatment works, which serves around 4 million people in north and east of the capital. Officials believe there have been some spread between closely linked individuals, probably extended family members, and that these people are now shedding the type 2 polio virus strain in their faeces. A consultant epidemiologist at the UK HSA has said that vaccine-derived polio virus is rare and the risk to the public overall is extremely low. An investigation has been launched following the death of an 89-year-old woman in Croydon. Police were called by the London Ambulance Service at around 9:20 last night to a woman suffering stab injuries at a residential address in Thornton Heath. She was pronounced dead at the scene. A man aged in his 30s was arrested at another address in Croydon a short time later, and he was taken into police custody. The London Fire Brigade have put out an urgent e-bike safety warning following a serious blaze at a block of flats in Shepherd's Bush yesterday, close to Grenfell Tower. 60 firefighters tackled the fire in a 12th floor flat, and one man was taken to hospital. The brigade's fire investigators have found the blaze to have been accidental and caused by the failure of an e-bike's lithium-ion battery. They're warning that batteries and chargers sourced online may not meet the correct safety standards. Now, stars from the big and small screens gathered in London to mark the launch of a new streaming service called Paramount Plus. Already a thing in the US, it's now gone live over here in the UK. The blue carpet in the capital saw stars talk about their work in TV shows arriving on the platform, including Rocky himself, Sylvester Stallone, on Tulsa King, in which he plays a New York mobster, as well as Londoner Bill Nighy. Let's take a look.
I married this life, and now, after keeping my mouth shut, I'm gonna see if it married me back.
Tulsa, I want you to go there.
This is a joke? It'll be interesting. This is what you call almost an engineered show. You have the East Coast allure, the kind of the mystique of the mob, and then I go out west where I'm among cowboys. A whole different culture. They think I'm crazy, I think they're really and this, so I form a new kind of gang of complete misfits. And now the New York mob wants to take over again, and I'm there. I have an Indian, a cowboy, a guy that sells weed. That's my new, and it's like him being re-educated, reborn. So I think it's gonna be fantastic.
And you in town?
Is it that obvious? I try to learn my lines down. I learn everyone's lines. So in 10 shows, it's about 400, maybe 420 pages of dialogue. And you have to learn the other people's dialogue. And so far, I haven't started using cue cards or things. Maybe I should start.
You know this one, Tammy?
Well, I know all your songs, Mr. Jones.
I mean, what's so great about George and Tammy is they're very human, and at the time we didn't know, especially on first glance, I didn't understand everything that Tammy contended with until I started researching her and reading the books. And in her book, she doesn't really go through everything. So then reading her daughter's book and other people's, accounts of what had happened, and I feel like that really is real life. Most of the time, we don't really know what's happening behind the scenes.
They're gonna take the house next month.
I'm always working. Molly has no one.
I saw something. It freaked me out.
I was sent to find you.
I'm talking to someone from another planet.
So am I.
I think that it's very exciting. I think it's funny, which I think when I was first reading it, it wasn't something that I expected to see in it, and so that was delight for me. And then it's been a delight when that's kind of come out and people have responded to it in that way. It's moving as well, and it's got a lot of heart to it, and I think it has some profundity and talks about the themes and in the way of great sci-fi, the issues of our time, reflected through that lens, at an angle, and that's what I really love about it. So I'm excited for people to see it, especially here in the UK, of course.
I brought you here to finish what I started. This is how we all survive.
People ask, is it still relevant? It discusses our attitude to migration. It discusses the environment and how we punish the environment and how we're killing the planet. All of those things have become far more crucial 40 years on because we haven't done anything about any of them. This is a romantic, funny, exciting adventure story. But those messages or that information is smuggled in a deeply, trust me, entertaining form.
They are waiting for me if they survived.
There we go, some of the stars you can see as part of that new streaming service. Right, stay with us for our final part of the programme. A special new track to celebrate the LGBTQ+ community this Pride Month. We'll hear from singer Conleth Kane about the music featuring the London Gay Men's Chorus.
From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live.
Welcome back. You're watching London Live News at 6. Now, singer and actress Christabel is bringing her new music to the stage in Hackney this month, calling it her cosmic album. The ethereal singer spoke to Tanya about the inspiration for her latest album. Mixing sci-fi and music, she's released a new video for the title song Midnight Star. Before we hear from her, let's take a listen to the track.
Are we losing signal?
Midnight Star is the name of the album, and it's also the name of a character who's on something of a cosmic adventure. And of course, this is all in my mind. It's just like, you know, when you're making a record, there's just vast potential and possibility, and you're kind of looking to create some kind of container for the creativity to just start to be able to take, you know, to get hot and get warm and start to cook. But you're kind of figuring out like the ingredients to pull in, and so for us there was this sound, this sonic palette of very almost sharp electronic, a bit of a coldness even to the music, but it felt to me kind of very like space, you know, like this cosmic feeling, even maybe like intergalactic spy music. There was something that was brewing there that was really getting me excited. So really, Midnight Star originally came from this you know, this sonic feeling that was different for me, new territory.
If we look at the music video for Midnight Star, there are these sort of otherworldly creatures that are in there. Talk me through that. You know, how did you create them? Where did they come from? I imagine some part of your brilliant imagination.
Oh, well, here's the brilliance, is that I find brilliant people. And in this case, oh my goodness, this is such a passion of mine, and it's connecting with people who I call it the cosmic yes. When I connect with someone, in this case, it's a director in Poland named Arkon. And through this series of beautiful alignments, he and I came together, and once this crystallization was formed, like once I was like, it's you, clearly that will be with me on this creative journey. And then from there, I simply trust that what is going to unfold will be in alignment in some way with what I've created. So there's that leap of faith, and which is always tantalizing because you don't know, but you know. So when Arkon was like, I found this amazing guy and he makes costumes out of found things, and they are wild and absurd and remarkable, and I think you're gonna love it. And I'm hearing this and I'm like, bring it, you know, let's see what happens.
And one of the other sort of mystical and magical things that's going to happen is that you're going to be on stage in London in Hackney at quite an institution, really. Oslo has been around for years.
Oh yes, and I've performed there many years ago, and that was even a seminal, personally, moment for me. There's something about this place that is it's something special, and I remember feeling very activated the last time I was there. It was maybe 8 years ago, could have been more, but London in general is, especially for a woman from Texas, there is this romanticism. There's this like, if I can just get there, everything afterwards will just be a breeze, right? So London has this quality of like this anticipation and this build up and this, feeling of tremendous excitement and wonder. And whenever I get to perform in London, it always has like the whoo, like that extra level of wow, I'm here.
Christabel there chatting to Tanya, and she's going to be performing at Oslo in Hackney on the 30th of June. Right, more music on the way for you now. Singer-songwriter Conleth Kane has released a new single to mark Pride Month, which he's going to be performing at Pride in London in July, featuring the London Gay Men's Chorus. Conleth recently performed the song at the Mighty Hoopla in Brockwell Park. He's been telling me more, but first, let's take a listen.
I'm proud of what I said. I'm proud of being me. 'Cause when I look in the mirror, I feel free.
So I wrote this song back in 2017. I was due to perform at Pride in London. And at the time, Northern Ireland was still going through that process of really trying to get equal marriage through in law. And as someone from Northern Ireland who lived in London at the time, I suppose I wanted to write a song about how I felt. And I wrote Pride in about 10 minutes, and I performed it at Pride in London a few days later, just acoustically. And there was such a great reaction from the crowd that I just really wanted to build the song and I released it on my 2020 record as a studio acoustic version, and now it's very much a dance version, and it features the London Gay Men's Chorus, and they've just added this huge epic, massive feel to the song, and it's really great to have them on board as special guests. They've just elevated it to a new level, which I love.
I don't care anymore, no, 'cause
Performed the song recently as well at the Mighty Hoopla, and you're going to be performing at Pride. What kind of reaction does the song get from the audience, from the crowd?
Pride is so uplifting, and there's no particular lyric in the song that suggests it's for the LGBTQ+ community. It's a song for everyone. I wanted the song to be for everyone out there and just for them to be proud of themselves no matter what. So it's really uplifting, positive, anthemic message, and that really, really resonates across the audiences when I perform it. And it's such a special song for me to perform because it came from a place of frustration, but it's actually very celebratory. And I love performing it. I love seeing the reaction. It's always brilliant.
And the London Gay Men's Chorus is part of the song. How did the collaboration happen?
Well, I performed as a special guest for the London Gay Men's Chorus back in 2018 at one of their gigs in London, and I sang the song acoustically at that show. And the musical director really loves the song, and I said, well, why don't we record this together? So we were meant to record it together in 2020, and the studio was booked and everything was in place, and then of course COVID came along and everything was shelved. So 2 years later I went knocking on his door. I was like, shall we still make this work? And we did. So it's finally here after almost 3 years of conversation. So the pandemic definitely threw a spanner in the works for, you know, choirs recording, that amount of people being in a room. So it just, everything was delayed, but we got there in the end. 3 years of conversations, and now the coast is kind of clear where that's concerned. So we managed to make it happen, and it just sounds incredible. And it was produced by Seventh Heaven, who have worked with Steps, Jay Cheers, Kylie Minogue. So it's just a real moment for me as an independent songwriter to have these producers on board and this amazing choir.
I don't care anymore what you think of me.
Conleth then, his new album Just a Dream is out now, and he'll also be at the Above the Stag Theatre in Vauxhall on the 21st of July, and of course at Pride in London next week. Right, it's time for a final check on the weather now before we leave you. Dropping to around 15 degrees at its lowest overnight. A dry night to come as well. Tomorrow will start off sunny, but early in the afternoon there could be some rain moving in from the south with a risk of thunderstorms. Some more sunny weather to look forward to on Friday. It's staying bright and warm with highs of 23 degrees. A couple of degrees cooler at the weekend, but it looks like the rain is going to be holding off for a bit longer. We can only hope. Right, that's all from us this evening. For updates throughout the day, do head over to our social channels. You can find us in all the usual places at London Live. But for now, from all of us here, have a lovely evening, and I'll see you tomorrow at 6 o'clock.